Have you ever counted the days until your next paycheck? You work Monday, you work Tuesday, you work every day of the week. And still, somehow, by the third week of the month, the money is almost gone. You look at your bank account and you think, where did it all go? You work hard. You are not lazy. Not stupid. But the money never seems to be enough. This lesson is for English learners who want more than new words. It is for your wallet, your future, your life. Today we are going to talk about two kinds of people. They can live in the same city. They can earn the same salary. They can come from the same neighborhood. But 10 years later, one of them is building wealth, and the other is still counting days until payday. The difference is not luck, not connections, not even education. The difference is what happens inside their minds. Before we go further, I want to ask you one question, just one, and I want you to think about it honestly. When you see something you want, but you cannot buy it right now, what is the very first sentence that comes into your mind? Do not answer yet. Hold that thought. Because by the end of this lesson, that one sentence will tell you everything about where you are going financially. Some people, when they see something they cannot afford, say this, "I cannot afford this." And they stop thinking. The conversation in their head is over. Other people say something different. They ask, "How can I afford this?" And their brain starts working. It starts searching. It starts building. One sentence closes a door. One sentence opens a window. Your mind is already making you rich or keeping you broke. That is not an accusation, not a judgment, simply the truth. And the truth, even when it is hard, is always more useful than comfort. In this lesson, we are going to look at two mindsets. We call them the rich dad mindset and the poor dad mindset. Not because one father is good and the other is bad, but because these two ways of thinking produce two completely different lives. We are going to look at the rules that rich thinkers follow. We are going to look at the traps that keep so many hardworking people stuck. And we are going to come back to that one question, the question that will force you to decide which mindset is running your life right now. This is not a lesson about hating money or worshiping it. This is a lesson about understanding it, because money does not care how hard you work. Money follows the way you think. Are you ready? Imagine two fathers. They both love their children. They both go to work every morning. They both want a better life for their families. But when money comes up at the dinner table, they say very different things. The first father, when his child asks for something expensive, says this, "We cannot afford that. Stop dreaming. Money does not grow on trees. Study hard, get a good job, and be grateful for what you have." The second father, when his child asks for something expensive, says something different. He says, "That is interesting. How could we get that? What would we need to learn? What problem could we solve to make that happen?" Same dinner table, same question from the child. Two completely different answers. Now here is what I want you to notice. The first father is not a bad man, not cruel. He is afraid. He grew up in a world where money was scarce, where security meant survival, where dreaming too big meant getting hurt. His advice comes from love, but it also comes from fear. And fear, when it is passed from parent to child, becomes the most expensive inheritance of all. The second father is not reckless. He is not telling his child that money is easy or that life has no limits. He is simply teaching his child to ask better questions, and better questions lead to better answers. Better answers lead to better actions. Better actions over time lead to a better life. Here is the hard truth. Most of us grew up in the house of the first father. Not because our parents were wrong people, but because their parents taught them the same thing, and their parents before them. A cycle. Long, quiet, expensive. And here is what that cycle does to your brain. When you hear the words, "I cannot afford this," often enough, as a child, your brain starts to accept them as facts, not as temporary situations, not as problems to solve, but as permanent truths about who you are and what you deserve. You stop asking how, you start accepting less. That is how poor dad thinking takes hold. Not a character flaw, not a moral failure, a program, an old program installed a long time ago, running quietly in the background of your financial life every single day. The rich dad mindset is also a program, but it was installed differently. It asks questions instead of making statements. It looks for solutions instead of excuses. It treats money not as a reward for good behavior, but as a tool. A tool that can be understood, learned, and used. The way you think about money is already deciding your future. The two fathers are not just characters in a book. They are the two voices inside your head right now. One voice says that it is not for people like me. The other voice says, not yet, but let me figure out how. The question is not which voice is louder. It is which voice you choose to listen to. And that choice, made again and again, every single day, over months and years, becomes your financial life. So let us now look at what the rich dad voice actually teaches, not in theory, in rules. Specific rules, the kind you can use starting today. Thinking rich is not a feeling, not motivation, not a poster on your wall that says, believe in yourself. It is a set of rules, specific rules, rules that when followed consistently change what your money does over time. Here are 3 of them. Rule number 1, assets first. Before the rich dad mindset person spends money, they ask one question. Does this make me money or does it cost me money? That is it. That is the whole filter. A car that takes you to work costs you money. Fuel, insurance, maintenance, depreciation, cost. A small rental property that collects rent every month makes you money. Asset. A new phone costs you money the moment you open the box. Cost. A skill that allows you to earn more money for the rest of your life makes you money. Asset. Now, this does not mean you never spend money. It means you spend money on assets first, and you upgrade your lifestyle later after your assets are generating enough to pay for that lifestyle. The spending first sequence goes like this. Earn money, spend money, feel good for a few days, worry about money, earn more, spend more, repeat. The rich dad sequence goes like this. Earn money, buy asset, let asset make more money, then and only then upgrade your life. Let me give you a picture of what this looks like over time. A factory worker, not a high salary, not a famous name. But every single month, without fail, he buys a small amount of stock in companies he believes in. He does not buy a bigger television. He does not upgrade his car every 3 years. He is quiet about money. He is consistent about money. 30 years later, he retires with more wealth than doctors and lawyers who earned 3 times his salary. Because they spent first. He invested first. Assets first. Always. Rule number 2. Problems are priced. The world pays you in proportion to the size of the problem you can solve. That sounds unfair, but it is actually the most democratic rule in finance. It does not care where you were born. It does not care what your parents did. It only cares about one thing. What problem can you solve, and how many people need that solution? Waiting is the other path. It waits for a manager to notice how hard it works. It waits for the company to give a raise. It waits to be recognized. Wealth-minded people do not wait. They ask a different question. What is the biggest problem I can solve right now? And then it goes to work on that problem. 2 employees, same company, same starting salary, same year. 5 years later, one of them earns 3 times more than the other. Not because they worked harder in terms of hours, but because one of them kept asking, what bigger problem can I help solve here? And every time they solved a bigger problem, they became more valuable. And valuable people get paid more, not always immediately, but always eventually. Problems are your path to wealth. Stop avoiding them. Start pricing them. Rule number 3. Buy back your time. The poor dad mindset trades time for money. Every hour of work produces a fixed amount of pay. The equation is simple. More hours equals more money. But there is a ceiling. There are only 24 hours in a day. You cannot work more than that, so your income has a hard limit. People who build wealth eventually flip this equation. It uses money to buy back time. Hire someone to do the tasks that do not need you specifically. Automate what can be automated. Invest so that money works while you sleep. The goal is not to stop working. It is to stop exchanging every hour of your life for a fixed amount of money. To reach a point where your time is yours again. Think about which sequence you are living right now. These 3 rules are not complicated. Assets first, problems are priced. Buy back your time. But simple is not the same as easy. Because following these rules requires you to fight against something very powerful. It requires you to fight against the traps. And those traps are what we are going to look at right now. Now we need to talk about the traps. Not because I want to make you feel bad, but because a trap only has power when you cannot see it. The moment you see it clearly, you can step around it. And these 3 traps have kept millions of hardworking, intelligent, well-meaning people financially stuck for their entire lives. Let us look at them one by one. Trap number 1, the comfort trap. It sounds like this. I have a stable job, I pay my bills, my family is okay. That is enough. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable. Stability is not a bad thing. Security is not a bad word. That is exactly where the trap closes around you. When stability becomes your ceiling instead of your floor, you stop growing. You stop asking. You stop reaching. Comfortable is not the same as safe. In fact, in today's world, comfortable can be one of the most dangerous places to stay. Industries change, companies downsize, skills become outdated. The person who spent 10 years being comfortable in one job wakes up one day and realizes the world moved without them. Comfort is not the destination. Comfort is a rest stop. You are allowed to rest. You are not allowed to park there permanently and call it success. Wealthy thinkers use stability as a launching pad. The other mindset uses it as a reason to stop. Trap number 2, the blame loop. You know this voice. The economy is difficult. My boss does not appreciate me. I never had the right connections. People like me do not get those kinds of opportunities. Every single one of those sentences might be true. The economy can be difficult. Some bosses are bad. Connections matter. Opportunities are not always distributed fairly. All of that can be real. But here is the problem. Every minute you spend explaining why your situation is someone else's fault is a minute you are not spending finding a way out of it. The blame loop is seductive because it feels like understanding, like you are being realistic, seeing the world clearly, acknowledging the obstacles. But there is a difference between acknowledging an obstacle and handing it the keys to your future. You blame the economy, you blame your boss, you blame your family, you blame the system. But the economy does not know your name. Your boss goes home and sleeps well at night. The system does not lie awake worrying about you. Only you are losing sleep. Only you are carrying the weight. A growth mindset acknowledges obstacles and then asks, given all of this, what can I still do? The other path acknowledges obstacles and then stops. One question moves you forward. The other keeps you exactly where you are. Trap number 3, the lottery mentality. And this one is the quietest trap of all. My big break is coming. One day I will get that promotion. One day the right person will notice me. One day I will have enough saved up to finally start. One day things will be different. One day, one day, one day. The lottery mentality is not about gambling. It is about waiting for a single event to change everything. It is the belief that somewhere out there is one moment, one opportunity, one lucky break that will solve all your financial problems at once. And so you wait. You wait instead of building. You hold back instead of starting small. You tell yourself you are being patient when actually you are being passive. Wealth is not an event, it moves in a direction. And that direction is built one day at a time. The factory worker who retired rich did not win anything. He did not get lucky. He did not wait for one big moment. He simply chose a direction and walked in it every single month for 30 years. Small steps, consistent steps, steps that most people around him did not notice or understand, until the day they did. One mindset builds every day, the other waits for the day. These three traps, comfort, blame, and waiting, are powerful because they feel logical, they feel safe, they feel like wisdom. But they are not wisdom. They are walls. And now before we talk about the one question that changes everything, we need to stand in front of a mirror. Because the most dangerous trap of all is the one we build ourselves, quietly, without even realizing it. I want you to think about a doctor. Not a specific person, just a picture. A doctor who spent 8 years in university, who worked long night shifts as a resident, exhausted, underpaid, pushing through, who finally, after years of sacrifice, started earning a high salary. And then what happened? A bigger apartment, a newer car, private school for the children, business class flights, a wardrobe that matches the status, a lifestyle that says, I worked hard for this and I deserve it. All of that is true. He did work hard. He does deserve comfort. Look at what happened next. Every time his income went up, his expenses went up with it. Every raise was already spent before it arrived. Every bonus disappeared into a lifestyle that had quietly grown to consume everything he earned. 10 years later, his salary is impressive. His savings are not. His assets are almost zero. If he stopped working tomorrow, everything would fall apart within 3 months. He is not poor, but he is not free. This is lifestyle inflation. And it is one of the most invisible financial traps in the world, because it does not feel like a trap, like reward, like progress, like finally living the life you earned. But reward and freedom are not the same thing. You can be very well rewarded and still completely trapped. The poor dad mindset says, I earn more now so I can live better now. Wealthy thinking says, I earn more now so I can build more now and live even better later without needing to work for it. One buys comfort today, the other buys freedom tomorrow. Now I want to talk about something even more uncomfortable, something we do not often admit out loud. The envy tax. You see a successful person, someone who built a business or invested well or achieved financial freedom. And before you even finish looking at them, a voice inside your head says something. They were lucky. They had connections. Their parents helped them. The system favored them. They probably did something dishonest to get there. Maybe some of that is true. The world is not perfectly fair. Some people do start with advantages. But ask yourself this. When you tell yourself that story, who benefits? Not you. Not your bank account. Not your future. Every time you explain away someone else's success, you close a door inside your own mind. You take a potential lesson and turn it into a reason why that lesson does not apply to you. You look at a map and decide it leads somewhere you are not allowed to go. That is the envy tax. You pay it in lost curiosity, in questions never asked, in lessons never learned, from people who figured something out that you have not figured out yet. Curiosity is free. Bitterness is expensive. Curious people look at success and ask, what did they do? What can I learn? What would I do differently? It approaches success the way a student approaches a teacher. The poor dad mindset looks at a successful person and builds a case for why their success does not count. It approaches success the way a critic approaches a competitor. One of those postures costs you nothing and teaches you everything. The other costs you everything and teaches you nothing. I am not asking you to admire everyone. I am not asking you to ignore injustice or pretend the world is fair. I am asking you to stop letting bitterness be more expensive than it needs to be. Because right now, someone, somewhere, is learning from the same successful person you just dismissed. And in 10 years, that difference in curiosity will show up very clearly in both of your bank accounts. Stop paying the envy tax. Start collecting the lessons. Now we come back to the question, the one I asked you at the very beginning of this lesson. The one I told you to hold in your mind. The one that I promised you would tell you everything about where you are going financially. Here it is again. Picture something you want right now but cannot buy. What is the very first sentence that forms in your mind? Take a moment. Be honest with yourself. Not the answer you think you should give. The real answer. The automatic one. The one that appears before you have time to think about it. Because that automatic answer is the truest financial signal you will ever receive about yourself. Let us look at what each answer actually does to your brain. Sentence 1. I cannot afford this. The moment those words form, your brain receives a clear instruction. Stop. Do not continue. This topic is closed. There is nothing more to think about here. And your brain obeys. It stops searching. It stops creating. It moves on to something else. The door closes. The conversation ends. In less than 1 second, a possibility disappears. Now multiply that by every day of your life. A course you could take, a business idea that crosses your mind, a property that could become an investment, a skill that could change your income. Every single time, if the first sentence is, I cannot afford this, the exploration ends before it begins. Over a year, that is hundreds of closed doors. Over a decade, that is thousands. Over a lifetime, that is the difference between the life you are living and the life you could have built. Now the second sentence. Ask yourself, how can I afford this? The moment that question forms, your brain receives a completely different instruction. Search, explore, find a way. This topic is open, and your brain obeys that instruction too. It starts asking follow-up questions. What would I need to earn more? What could I learn? Who has done this before me? What could I sell, build, offer, create, or change to make this possible? It may not find the answer immediately. It may take days, months, or years, but the search has begun. And a brain that is searching is a brain that is growing. A brain that is growing is a brain that is building. That question is not a guarantee, it is a direction. And here is what I need you to understand most clearly. This is not about positive thinking, not about pretending you have money you do not have, not about ignoring reality. This is about the direction your brain runs in when it encounters a financial obstacle. One sentence keeps you still. One sentence makes you move. One sentence every day over a lifetime becomes your financial destiny. The father who built wealth did not succeed because he was smarter or luckier or more talented. He became rich because every time he hit a wall, he asked how to get through it instead of accepting the wall as permanent. And the father who stayed poor did not stay that way because he was lazy or weak or less deserving. He stayed poor because every time he hit a wall, he wrote, I cannot afford this on it, and walked away. The sentence you choose is the life you build. So I am asking you again, right now, in this moment, when you picture something you want but do not yet have, what is the first sentence? If it is, I cannot afford this, that is not a confession. That is a diagnosis. And every diagnosis is the beginning of a change. If it is, how can I afford this, then you already have the most important tool. Now you just need to use it every single day. The question is yours. What you do with it is also yours. Let me tell you something that nobody told the poor dad. This mindset is not a gift, not something you are born with, not reserved for people from wealthy families, or people with advanced degrees, or people who grew up in the right neighborhoods. A decision. One that can be made at any age, at 22 or 45 or 61. A decision that does not require permission from anyone. A decision that does not need a perfect moment or a large amount of money to begin. It only needs one thing. You. Nobody chose their first father. Nobody chose the voice that was installed in their head before they were old enough to question it. Nobody chose to grow up in a house where money was a source of shame or silence or fear. But every single person reading this, every single person listening right now, can choose their second father. The voice they decide to listen to from this point forward. The program they choose to run. That choice is not made once, it is made every day. Every time you see something you want and your brain reaches for a sentence. Each payday, when you decide what happens to that money first. Each moment you look at someone more successful and choose between curiosity and bitterness. Each wall you hit when you decide whether to write on it or look for a door. Those small choices made consistently over time build a financial life. Not quickly, not dramatically, but permanently. So let us be clear about what you are taking from this lesson today. First, assets before lifestyle. Ask yourself every time you spend money, does this make me money or cost me money? Build first, enjoy later. Second, problems are your path to wealth. Stop waiting to be recognized. Start asking what bigger problem you can solve. The world pays well for real solutions. Third, stop blaming, start building. Every minute spent explaining why your situation is someone else's fault is a minute not spent changing it. Acknowledge the obstacle, then move. Fourth, ask the right question every single day. Not, I cannot afford this. How can I afford this? 4 words, 1 direction, a lifetime of difference. These are not complicated ideas. They never were. This way of thinking has never been a secret. It has always been available to anyone willing to choose it. The rich dad is not a person. He is a decision. And that decision is sitting right in front of you now. Not tomorrow. Not when your salary goes up, or your circumstances get easier, or the economy improves. Now. Your mind is already making you rich or keeping you broke. The only question left is this. Which one will you let it do from today forward? Before you go, I have one last thing to ask you. Not a lesson, not a rule, just a question for the comments section below. When you see something you want but cannot buy right now, what is the very first thought that comes into your mind? Be honest, write it down. Because honesty is where change begins. And you might be surprised how many people in this community are thinking exactly the same thing. Read the comments too. You will learn something from the people around you. Now, a quick note on your English. In this lesson, you heard vocabulary like assets, lifestyle inflation, financial destiny, and depreciation. You heard sentence structures used in real coaching in business conversations, in the kind of English that opens doors professionally. Keep listening to content like this, not just for the ideas, for the language that carries those ideas. The two things grow together, your English and your thinking, your vocabulary and your vision. Keep listening, keep learning. This channel is for English learners who want both language and life to grow. That is what this channel is for. See you in the next lesson.